Friends, greetings again. Once again, greetings, friends. And before I start any discussion today, I would just like to request, or make a request rather, that please share and like whatever discussion I am doing or whatever I'm trying to convey to each one of you or to the audience, to the people that they are really attached or they are interested in knowing something that is good for the country, for the world, for the society, for the humankind also. And not only share and like, please subscribe to my channel. Ask your friends or suggest your friends and other people to subscribe to my channel so that whatever discussion I am doing, it reaches maximum audience. With this request, let me begin the discussion today. Today, friends, I am going to talk on a very different topic, and the topic that is very relevant today. Nowadays, each one of us must be hearing a word called new normal. Whenever anything is happening, whatever developments are taking place, on whatever development is taking place on its own or through some interventions or something, through some impetus or maybe on its own, all of a sudden we start hearing that this is the new normal or that is the new normal. But have we ever thought or have we ever considered, like in terms of the human life today, what is the new normal? How we are dealing with our lives? How the COVID-19, particularly with the onset of the COVID-19 or coronavirus, how the human life has shaped up, or how the human life is shaping up across the world in different countries with different societies. I hope the discussion today that I'm going to make or that I'm going to do is able to throw some lights on this. And whichever country you talk, whichever continent you talk, whichever society you talk, everyone is talking about new normal. This is the new normal. COVID-19, post-COVID-19, this is the new normal. Pre-COVID-19, something different was the new normal. Even before COVID-19 or even before coronavirus, actually, if you see, the countries were having difficult times in terms of society or social issues, in terms of politics or political issues, and in terms of economy or financial issues. And every society, or rather every country, was having some sort of problem at its hand. And society or the country, it was finding it difficult how to tackle any one of them. But the COVID-19, the onset of COVID-19 has definitely made the task harder, made the task difficult, and that is why the country or the countries today are at the crossroad. The human life itself is at a crossroad where the direction or the future is definitely unknown, unpredictable, unenviable. Nobody would like to be in the situation that we are today. At no point of time the human race was facing such a controversial or such a conflict issues or such a conflict juncture in its journey that we are having or we are experiencing today. And most of the governments, most of the organizations, they are talking about new normal. And new normal, what they are telling, all kind of disruptions are taking place. Disruptions in terms of income, disruptions in terms of business, disruption in terms of day-to-day lives, disruption in terms of doing work, doing jobs. Everywhere we are having something, and the politicians or the leaders or the influencers, they are all telling, or rather the print media, electronic item, news, channels or newspapers, they are all talking about new normal. But what is the new normal today? Whatever we are experiencing, are they the new normal? In my opinion, I think the new normal is something different. Alphabets A, B, C, D to Z. I think we should always try to learn something from the alphabets. And on the basis of the alphabet, what I understand is that being ABCD is the new normal. But what does these alphabets, or what do these alphabets stand for in terms of ABCD when we are talking about new normal? In my opinion, I think A stands for abnormal, B stands for bankrupt, C stands for COVID, and D stands for divisive. I think this is the reality today. ABCD is definitely going to be studied, read, narrated, going to be explained by each and every person, starting from the childhood to the grown-ups, starting from the person who has just taken birth to the person who is on his or her deathbed. but ABCD in different form we are forced to remember due to certain factors or due to the factors that we see around us, that we experience around us. And that is why I am telling that A stands for abnormal, B stands for bankrupt, C stands for COVID, and D stands for divisive. And I hope you agree that this is the reality today. Time today is unenviable, unpredictable, unprecedented. I hope you agree. I hope you also are experiencing the same thing what I am experiencing, or what I am going to discuss today, or what I have started to discuss today with you all. Chaos galore worldwide. Normalcy rare everywhere. Normalcy we are not experiencing at all. Whatever we are experiencing is chaos. Chaos is something, something you can say, something you can put or you can blame something on COVID-19. But I think a majority of chaos we should put blame on our political leadership, or the leadership that is working around us, that is active around us across the countries, across the societies. India is also no exception. Just like other countries in the world, India is also deep into chaos. Normalcy is hardly visible, seldom visible, and rather India appears to be worst affected. Abnormality, bankruptcy, COVID, or corrupt, divisive, or being divided are the order or routine of the day it appears, highlight of the day it appears, or glory of today's society. Governance. Governments and political leaders all are synonymous with the above. I think the way they have taken approaches, the way they have adopted their tackling approaches, or the way they have tried to handle COVID-19 or the issues related or attached to it, it appears that they have not been able to stand up, rise to the occasion. And it is really a disappointing factor indeed. Our political leadership in any country across the world has not been able to stand up to the challenge that the COVID-19 or the situation or the issues related to it, attached to it, they have presented themselves. Individuals, families, societies, organizations, governments, or countries all appear to suffer from the aforesaid adjectives. Abnormality stands on more than one counts. Bankruptcy of ideas, resources, opportunities galore. Being COVID or corrupt is seen as a repute, respect. Being divisive or divided means having succeeded in life in almost everything. To be successful in life, political leadership today is maximum divided or divisive. They are trying to divide the society so that they are able to rule the society, or they are able to rule the countries they are holding, or they are the leaders. Looking around self for anyone, the situation or the survival itself appears to be shaky and doubtful. The entire world appears devoid of life-saving tools, looks uncertain and unsure about the course of events shaping up due to the aforesaid multiple factors. You name any country in the world and you find it suffering gravely and seriously from unhuman, deadly symptoms as mentioned above. Developed countries like USA, UK, Germany, Russia, China, France, Canada, and developed continents like Europe, Australia, North America, all are on the downward trajectory. And developing countries like India, South Africa, Malaysia, and developing continents like India, South America are also going from bad to worse. On a scale of 10, if you rank developed nations on 6 to 7 or 5 to 6 after falling from the top, or maybe from 10 or 9, they are still better than the developing nations falling to the level of 1 or 2, or maybe below that also. Life is still better than the rest, although less ambitious and inspiring. The life in developed nations are better than the rest, or better than the developing or third world countries. Governments across the world are clueless, goalless, incapable to handle crisis, devoid of ideas, disconnected with their citizens and residents and their expectations. Leaders, officials, or institutions in the seat of power or holding power wherever they are abusive of the power they enjoy for their own benefit at the cost of citizens or country. Political leaders mostly are employing divisive ideas, policies through media, TV, and social media to fulfill their divisive goals and interests, harming larger interests and the country. People are largely unemployed, having no income, depleting savings, no scope for any positive U-turn from the current destructible or destructive situation. Societies are divided like never before, endangering the future generations as well. Businesses are not running, not able to source goods because of the disruption in the supply chain, logistics, having no revenue, losing market and customers, are finding difficult to generate employment and feed their families. Starting from education and healthcare services to to trading and transportation, everything is in disarray and presenting difficult circumstances for every stakeholder in the society. Growth of societies and countries have halted, have stopped as they go deeper into negative sentiments. Most of the countries, most of the societies are falling into deep and deep, or rather deeper negative sentiments, and that is why I think, or I should rate it as if the growth and development have halted or stopped. Look at India also. This whatever I have presented, or whatever facts I have presented, this appears to be true in terms of, or in respect of, most of the countries, or almost entire world. And have a look at India also. We will now focus on India also. Look at India, a closer example to understand it well, because I am discussing, or I am putting this discussion in terms of, or in reference to the Indian perspectives also. Corona, despite being a democracy, India is India and United States of America, these two are the largest or the biggest democracies. That despite being a democracy, it is governed by an arrogant, selfish, clueless and anti-people government, seldom eager to accept its mistakes or blunders. Result is mostly negative on almost all counts. Its decisions like demonetization, GST implementation, corona-related lockdown, just to name a few, have yielded most unwelcome outcomes, maximum loss of lives, causing maximum loss of lives, wealth, resources, opportunities, and yet it never accepts its blunders or mistakes, whatever it has committed during last few years of its rule. Its several other laws, actions, or decisions are causing unrest in the Indian society, forcing people to protest or demonstrate, but it rarely listens to any voice. Every dissenting voice is rejected as a minority voice, not to be taken seriously. Besides, it uses Godi and social media to spread fake news to achieve its sinister objectives. We should take some examples from the previous times also, or the history also. India has been subjugated to some 1,000 years of foreign rule, where Muslim rulers, or the rulers from the different countries, and the Britishers or the Christian rulers, they also ruled India. Now, if I present some examples before you, you will also be agreeing with the facts that I present now. India has never experienced protests, demonstrations, wars, or revolutions on the basis of religion. It has always been for, or to occupy new territories, to increase income, to plunder wealth, or to subjugate the enemies, and never ever the fight or the result or the demonstrations or the protests or the wars have taken place on the basis of religion. I will just put some examples before you. Maharana Pratap, he was fighting King Akbar, one of the Mughal rulers. Then Chhatrapati Shivaji, he also fought one of the Mughal rulers named Aurangzeb. Then you name Rani Lakshmibai or Tatya Tope or Nana Fadnavis, who fought British rule or the English rule, but they were always the minority, trying to uproot or trying to stage a fight against the mighty rulers of the country. And most of the country, or major part of the country, or majority of the country, they did not support these fighters or these people from the country itself, ultimately turning them into minority voices. And what happened? They were not successful. They were subjugated. They lost their lives. They lost their everything, and finally they all were defeated. This has been the tradition in the country, and because of this, India some of the real true patriots or some of the real true fighters, they have not succeeded in making India successful or rich or wealthy enough or whatever their goals were there. But the rulers of the day, they were able to defeat these people who were sacrificing their everything, not turning them into minority voices, and the majority was turning silent without supporting these minority voices. Minority few always made sacrifices for society and country. Majority hues always fall into silence, or they fall into silent majority. This is the situation, or this is the reality today also. Society or the country, that is why India has paid price due to this reason for centuries and 1,000 years. It was subjugated, it was ruled by foreign countries. Now this is one part of example I am telling you, or I'm sharing with you. Now let us share another part of example. The Indian Constitution, India got its independence in 1947. The Indian Constitution was adopted in 1950. It was stipulated that for 15 years English will be the medium of instruction or medium of conducting official or other course or other duties or other jobs. But Hindi was declared as the national official language, and it was stipulated that after 15 years Hindi will be, or there will be a kind of a promotional campaign, or there will be a kind of campaign to make Hindi be acceptable, to make Hindi acceptable to all the parts of the country, so that Hindi for all official purposes becomes the language of use also. Not only in the name it is a national language, but in practice also it becomes the national language. But even after 74 years, it is still continuing. We are still continuing to conduct most of our business in English. Hindi is still not, for all practical purposes or for all real purposes, Hindi is still not the official language. And you know why it is not happening? Because minority few or some one or two states, not 140 crores of people, rather maybe 5 crore or 8 crore or 10 crores of people particularly, or belonging to one or two states like Tamil Nadu and other states, they are opposing Hindi like anything. And that is why Hindi, for all practical purposes, for conducting of business, is not becoming the official language. In the name itself, or for the name itself, it is continuing to be the national official language. And here the government is bowing, or rather falling, to the demands of the minority few, but not the majority hues who want Hindi to be made, for all practical purposes, the language of business also. This two contrasting, or these two diagonally opposite situations, why I am presenting today, because the government of the day, whether today, whether in history, or whether previous years also, government of the day, as per its convenience, is utilizing majority hues or minority few to serve its own interest. If the minority few has to be taken seriously, then the current farmer protest going on in the country must be taken seriously. The people protesting against the against the farm bills, the 3 farm bills that were passed in the in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha hurriedly, the Indian government, or the government at the center, it must listen to the protesting farmers. Instead, it is simply ignoring, trying to put some cobwebs, trying to adopt or employ a divide and rule policy, so that this farmer protest is fizzled out, or they are able to conquer it, or they are able to destroy it, not in the legal sense but in the illegal sense. And terming it as a minority voice, they are not taking it seriously. But just now I gave you 2 examples where the governments of the history, earlier years, because of the silence of the majority hues, the minority voices have always been suppressed, have always been put into oblivion, or they were defeated, they were not taken seriously. But at the same time, Hindi, because of the minority view, is not being made the language of business to conduct business inside India. The governments have always been like that, and governments perhaps will continue to be like that. And that is why, due to the government, most of the problems that the humankind is facing today is happening, or is on account of the failures on the part of the government, central government, state governments, whatever. And this is the story of the country today, or Indian story today. Today the world is experiencing abnormal symptoms. Bankrupt and COVID corrupt governments, while we experience divided and eclectic public. This is really, truly an ABCD time. Abnormal, bankrupt, COVID or corrupt, divisive or divided time. Abnormal, bankrupt, COVID or corrupt, divided or divisive. I hope you, friend, enjoyed the discussion today, and somehow we must come out of this situation. Somehow we must be able to conquer this situation so that this new normal is not continuing for a long time. Rather, we are back into our pre-COVID normal days, where we were not only growing, we were not only on the path of development, but the mankind also was less skeptical about its survival, about its success for centuries. And the way we are confronted with the COVID-19, and the way COVID-19 and related issues have developed, we are able to fight them also. And not only that, we are being in a democracy, we should not only take majority use voice seriously, but we must also be taking minority few voice also seriously. Thank you, friends, with these points in discussion today. I hope, and let me wish you all a very great future ahead, very great new year ahead also. 2020 is coming to an end in just 2 weeks time, and we are going to usher in 2021. Let 2021 be a year of success, prosperity, and growth and development for everyone, each one of us. Thank you, friends. All the best.